Hi, I'm Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed. And today, my healer guest is Megan Daly. Megan, say hi.
Hello.
Excellent, thank you. And Megan and I met each other through a networking group that wasn't really about networking, it was a digital marketing club. And I started talking to her and finding out what she did. And so that's why I wanted her to be with us today. So if you're catching this live or on the replay, I will put her information down below so that you can get in touch with her because what she does is pretty amazing. Okay, so a little bit about Megan so you'll know who she is. So she has an alphabet soup behind her name, which is a good thing. So she's a PT, a DPT, which is a doctor of PT, and also a CHC, and she's an experienced physical therapist and health coach. Let's see, she has her certificate in vestibular rehabilitation. Did I say that right?
It's vestibular rehabilitation.
I'm not at all surprised that I did bad things to that. Thank you for the correction. And she works with patients with dizziness, migraines, concussions, and balance conditions to help them have less dizzy days and take control of their lives again. So, Megan, we are so glad that you are here. This is exciting.
Yes, thank you, Robin, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. And so, our first question for you is tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. So I am a physical therapist and a health coach. I have been a PT for about 8 years now. And I worked in several different settings when I first started out. So I was in subacute care, which is more of long-term care, but it also included short-term stay. So sort of that transition between the hospital and going home. And I've also worked in outpatient settings. And then as a student, I've done training in the hospital in acute care as well. So, well, let's see, when was it? 2016, about 5 years ago, I did the vestibular certification course, which is the gold standard for us. And that is the certification that allows you to work with vertigo patients. And you can still work with patients if you don't have that, but it just gives you that higher level of training. So you can help people that have vertigo, that have any kind of balance issue. They might have dizziness from migraine or concussion. And so I was able to work with that patient population extensively during all of that training.
Excellent. Okay, so that's what the alphabet soup behind your name really means for those of us who are trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's definitely a new thing that PTs are now doctors of physical therapy. So we have 7 years of school.
Oh, I was wondering because I have another friend who's a doctor PT. And so I was curious about that, but when I met with her, we got so sidetracked on other things that I didn't get a chance to ask. So, thank you. That's helpful. And 7 years, that's a lot. Wow. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got drawn into this line of work and the big why that you must have had to do 7 years of education?
Yeah, so I initially have saw a lot of family members that had struggled with vertigo and with migraine. So it was definitely an interest for me. And I was trying to decide if I was going to go into medicine or what would be the best route for me to help people and heal people. And I always loved exercise and health and the more holistic approach. So physical therapy was a great way to do that. So that was my initial driving factor. And then while I was doing my training, I was able to work with specialists in vestibular rehab who did all of this vertigo treatment. And it was just phenomenal to see how they could heal people that had struggled with dizziness for 10, 15, even 20 years. And they would come in for maybe sometimes just 2 or 3 treatment sessions, and it would change their life.
Wow. Okay, for those of us who don't have that issue, dizziness, will you explain some of the ramifications and the impact it has on your lifestyle?
Yeah. So the big thing with dizziness is oftentimes you never know when it's going to happen to you. So depending on what type you have, if it's from migraine or from concussion or even like a positional vertigo, it can come on when you least expect it or least want it to. And so it can limit what you can do. It's also exhausting. So even if you're not having an episode of dizziness, it may take you 3 times as long to do the laundry or make dinner or do all of those household chores.
Wow, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for most of us who aren't affected with it, we just think, oh, dizzy, stop, take a breath, did you eat? Not enough water. I mean, that kind of thing. But I don't usually think about it as something that could be really, debilitating and really a negative impact on lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. And I know that we've gotten a little sidetracked before on our discussion, so I'm just going to bring this just up a little bit. And so Megan knows that I have trigeminal neuralgia, which is this weird nerve thing. And so we started talking about the vagus nerve, which is very important and impacts all of us, even though we don't know that. And so we're probably going to do a whole nother interview at some point on trigeminal neuralgia just because it's so weird. And the choices for dealing with it are really minimal. But did you want to say something about if that fits into what it is that you're doing and working with folks like that, or the vagus nerve, which is fascinating?
Yes, yeah, it's definitely something that I do. And what I like to do is look at the whole person and do a full screening, because a lot of times people get tested for more common types of vertigo, or they look at the most common types of migraine. But what gets missed a lot of times is, how is that vagus nerve working? Has it been affected by your concussion or your migraine or the trigeminal neuralgia, right? Because the vagus nerve is a big part of your rest and digest. So when you're calm and you're at rest, then the vagus nerve is very happy. But if you are not able, like if your body's not working the way it should be, then you're often in fight or flight, and that affects that vagus nerve. So it's a really important thing to look at, because that affects your healing, it affects your stress, and all of that can then just make your symptoms worse too. So looking at how the vagus nerve is working, looking at how your fight or flight response is going, and putting that whole picture together is all a really important part of my treatments.
Oh, that's good to know, because what I've been learning is yes, all of those things impact. Like my husband and I were having a discussion the other day, and it wasn't going well. It was one of those kind. And so my tan was just flaring big time. It was like, I can't even argue with you because it hurts so bad. We're just gonna have to wait. But so, and isn't the vagus nerve? Someone was telling me it's so thick it's about the size of your pinky. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd have to double check again, but it is. It's a very large nerve, and it goes all the way down to your stomach. And so there's a lot of things that it touches as it goes through.
Wow. Yeah, it's just fascinating. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so thank you for letting me sidetrack us a little bit
All right,
off
anytime.
the TN world. So tell us about what are some of the things that you do and gifts that you have for folks who are trying to deal with this, and maybe they're diagnosed, maybe they're not.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's more common that people haven't been diagnosed yet, because sometimes these symptoms are really hard to see. They're subtle, and they sometimes get dismissed by other providers who aren't as familiar with the signs and symptoms. So, one of the things I do is the technical side of it. So I'll do the full vestibular evaluation, and I would love for everybody to learn that word, right? So that everybody knows what the vestibular system is, because it's a major part. It's your balance system, and it's so important. So we look at the technical side of that. How are you balancing? How are your eyes working with your inner ear and with your touch sense and all of those good things? But then I also look at all the lifestyle factors, because stress is such a big part of your fight or flight response, and that affects your vagus nerve and that affects your symptoms. So we look at that, and we look at your sleep, and we look at what you're eating and see if there's anything that's really causing a lot more inflammation that needs to be addressed. So I like to look at both the technical side of things and also the lifestyle, because those can be just as important with what's going on.
Wow. Yeah, from my experience, I would agree with you wholeheartedly on all of those. And a lot of those questions, I don't think people normally get asked or even think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some things that people can do at home to take care? I mean, are there any things that they can do?
Yeah, there's some very easy, quick things that people can do right away, especially to help calm down the nervous system. For certain types of vertigo, there's specific treatments that do have to be done. But for managing more of the response to what's going on, diaphragmatic breathing is one of the first things that I will teach my patients. And that's how to breathe from your diaphragm to help calm down your nervous system. And just doing it for even a minute can make a difference.
And are you going to show us how to do that?
You want a little demonstration right now?
That would be great. I mean, I know we're kind of getting up against it time wise, but breathing is so important that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, Robin, you can do this with me. I'll back up just a little bit. But the first thing is to find your diaphragm. I don't know if you can see it. So, right under your rib cage,
Oh, good. That's better.
there's a spot right where your rib cage come together. Underneath that, there's just like a little firm spot. So, if you put your hand there, that's over your diaphragm. And then I like to put the other hand just comfortably across my shoulder. You just want to breathe and see where you feel your hand moving.
And that's the lower hand, right?
Yeah. So sometimes people will start and they'll breathe up here and they won't feel it down on their diaphragm. So you want to focus on your hand on your diaphragm moving and your hand up on your shoulder being still.
Oh,
So
interesting.
as you breathe in, you should feel your hand come off your belly a little bit. It should push it out. And then as you breathe out, you should feel it collapse back in again. So your hand should come in towards your back. And just focusing on that rhythm.
Now, do you do a count to this? Because I know lots of breathing styles. It's like, breathe in 4 count,
Mm-hmm.
hold 2, exhale 6. Do you do that or just suggest this or what? Or
You
both?
can get into lots of different breathing styles and there's different numbers. I always start with this just to make sure that you're using your diaphragm and not using your shoulders so much. And then once you've got that down, then work into, holding. You can do 4 or 5 count and then exhale for the same amount. You can breathe in for 4, you can hold, and then you can exhale for 5 or 6. So there's different numbers.
Great. And I have a feeling all those different numbers mean something different,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at the clock and appreciating your time and knowing that we need to wrap up. But breathing is so huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
it
glad.
is huge.
But go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, and breathing is huge. And the other thing I focus on is sleep. And I will tie them together. So if people are having a hard time with sleep, then they can do this while they're lying in bed because they're already in a comfortable position. It's easier to calm down the shoulders if you're using your shoulders to breathe.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Of course. That's why you went to school for 7 years.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Well, Megan, thank you. And I hope that you will come back so we can spend a whole time on just trigeminal neuralgia and choices and what it really is and how to help somebody and all of those things.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Robin.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much. This has been fun and fascinating.